My name is Bristol County District Attorney Tom Quinn, and I'm here to introduce a very important program that our office supports. It's called Cory's Cause. I want to give you some brief background about it, but it's particularly important for people in school, for parents, to help be aware of the many pitfalls that are out there, especially with respect to substance abuse. Now, you're going to hear from Cory and his family very shortly. Cory's message is about substance abuse. It's about perseverance. He was a young man from Taunton, an athlete and student at Taunton High School, played baseball, went to UMass Dartmouth. He was injured there, and as a result of his injury, he ended up taking pills. This is going back a number of years ago, but they'll explain the particulars of it. As a result of that, he became addicted. Had a supportive family, tried to battle the addiction. Ultimately, he ended up in a facility, a rehab facility, where, as a result of the addiction, he had a medical issue that almost resulted in his death as a result of substance abuse. It came, again, through a sports injury. It comes in many ways. People, sadly, get addicted to various substances that can cause them and their families and their loved ones and their friends a great deal of turmoil. So we're here to present his message, which, fortunately, through the grace of God, he lived, and with a supportive family, he worked through the rehabilitative process physically. And his parents, I'm going to introduce Lori shortly, again, through their support, as he moved forward, thought it would be a great idea to start an organization that would bring this message of what happened to their son, and it can happen in other ways. People can be addicted, whether it's through an injury or a temptation. But the bottom line is it's going to have a bad ending for you and your family. Things do happen. Want to work through it if people are involved, if you are addicted. But in the court system, I see day after day the turmoil that substance abuse causes. Cory's Cause is an organization based in Taunton that, again, is bringing the message, his message, which you'll hear from him, to various schools and organizations throughout the county and the greater Taunton area. But it is a story of perseverance and redemption, because he lived when he easily could have died. And as he went through the rehabilitative process, he has a message coming to bring to you about his own situation, which is very persuasive when you hear it. So at this point, I'd like to again thank the family and introduce Lori to come and start the program off. Thank you very much.
Thank you. I really want to thank District Attorney Tom Quinn. He's been very supportive of what we do and of our nonprofit, and they have partnered with us, and they arrange speaking engagements all over Bristol County for us to get our message out there to school-age kids, and we have done a few at UMass, just to get our message out there of our family story and what we went through, in the hopes that we can prevent it from happening to someone else. So thank you very much. We appreciate it. I'm going to introduce my husband, Dave. This is my husband, Dave. He's going to come and grab another mic. I just want to tell you a little bit about our background. We live in Taunton. My husband, Dave, is a school teacher in the Taunton School Department. He's been teaching in the Taunton School Department for over 30 years, and I'm an insurance agent at a local agency in Taunton. I'm 59 years old. This is actually going to be my 60th year. I'm hitting the big 60 this year. I cringe to say that, but but, and I've worked at that agency for 40 years. So we have a lot of ties into that community. Dave and I were both born and raised in Taunton, and I have a big Italian family, and when my husband married me, it was like, if you ever saw the movie My Big Fat Greek Wedding, where one side of the church was full of people and the other side had about 20, that was us. And reason that I tell you that is because I want to give you, a little background about how Cory was raised. He was raised with this big family that every Sunday we had dinner at my parents' house. Sunday dinner. My husband used to call it the Soprano Sunday dinner because we're an Italian family. And he was always surrounded by his grandparents, aunts, uncles, cousins. So he had a really good home life. He had a great life. He was a really smart kid. He was National Honor Society kid in school. He was always on the honor roll. He had a really good life. I tell people this about my son, and people say, oh, it's like the house with a picket fence, and then I say, and my son is a heroin addict, and you kind of see people's jaws drop. Like, how could this happen to a kid like that? And I'm going to tell you right now, if you leave here with anything, please remember this disease of addiction can happen to anyone. It doesn't discriminate, and it knows no boundaries. It can happen to absolutely anyone. I want to go back to a date that will forever be etched in my mind, July 15th, 2013. I was sitting at home watching television, and my cell phone rang. I didn't recognize the number on the screen. I answered the phone, and he said, "Is this Cory's mom?" And my heart sunk a little bit because I was getting the call that every parent dreads to ever receive. And I said, "Yes, it is." And he said, "My name is Tom. I live here in the sober house with Cory, and he relapsed, and he overdosed, and they're putting him in an ambulance." That was very difficult for me because, he had been doing well. He was 75 days. He had been in treatment. He was 75 days where he was drug-free, and we were very hopeful that this time was going to be the time that, it would have worked and he would have had, a long time of sobriety behind him. But unfortunately, he did relapse. So I thought, okay, the EMTs will hit him with Narcan, which is an overdose reversal drug, and I will meet them at the hospital in Falmouth, at Falmouth Hospital, and then I'm going to bring him to treatment again. Actually, his treatment facility was right next door to the Falmouth Hospital, so that worked out really well. On my way down to the Cape, I was on 495, my phone rang, and it was the hospital, and they just told me they just kind of wanted to update me. They told me that they actually had lost him. He had died on the table, and they revived him, and that they had to put him on life support. So he was in a coma, and he was on life support. So I'm trying to wrap my head around all of this while I'm driving to the Cape, because I thought it was, he'll be fine. They'll give him Narcan, and he'll go back to treatment. I had no idea what was ahead of me. So I continued to drive to the Cape. And right before I got to the Bourne Bridge, my phone rang again. And it was the hospital chaplain. And it was a woman, and she said to me, "How long is it going to be before you get here?" And I said to her, I'm just about to go over the Bourne Bridge. And she said, "I'm calling to see if you would like clergy." And I knew why she was asking me that, but I couldn't just wrap my head around it. So I said to her, "Why?" And she said, "Are you Catholic, or what religion are you? Would you like a priest?" And she said, "We don't think he's going to make it." So here I am, I'm driving over the Bourne Bridge, and the irony of the whole thing was my whole life, when we got to that bridge, I was so excited. Oh, vacation is on the other side. Beaches are on the other side. Fun things are on the other side of that bridge once you go over that canal. And you know what? That night, I knew I was driving to hell, and I didn't want to go over that bridge. But I did, and my husband and I arrived, and we stood there while the priest gave him the last rites. As a parent, let me tell you what, that's a horrible, horrible thing to go through. It was probably the hardest thing that I've ever done in my life. He was in ICU. He was hooked up to all kinds of machines, and my husband and I, sat by his bed, and I felt like I needed to go for a walk. So my husband said, I'll stay here with him. So I was walking around the hospital, and I see the chapel at the hospital, and the door was unlocked, so I went in. And I'll tell you what, I would have made a deal with the devil. I would have made a deal with anyone to save his life that night. And, I just prayed to God, please don't take my only child. And I knew at that moment that unofficially Cory's cause was born, our nonprofit, because I knew in that moment, whether he lived or died that night, that I was going to do some kind of advocacy work, that I was going to try to get out there and talk to people about addiction, because I never wanted another mom to go through what I went through that night. He lived that night, and he lived every night since, and it'll be 10 years this July, and he's still with us. So I always tell people the worst night of my life was the best night of my life, because he lived. Why God didn't take my only child, I don't know, where so many people are losing their child, but I just thank God that he was saved. And that's why we do what we do. We go out and we share our family story, and sometimes it's hard for me. It brings back a lot of emotion, but I need to share this story because it helps us heal as a family. And if we can just help one person every time we speak, if we can make a difference in one life, then that's great, because that's what we aim to do. Dave?
So how did Cory go about this journey in the first place? He was a student athlete in the video that we're going to show you in a little bit, shortly. You'll see him. He was the backup quarterback for Taunton High. He was on the Taunton High School baseball team. He was a student athlete, just all around very talented, athletic kid. How in the world did this happen? Did we forget to have the drug talk with him? No, we did not forget that talk. We gave it to him. It started off with a sports injury. That's how it happened to him. His throwing arm in baseball, his right arm, he had a torn labrum, okay, and that was going to require surgery. So in the summer between his junior and senior year, he had that surgery on his right arm and was given prescription pain medication, Percocets, from the doctor to take as prescribed for the pain, okay, and back then they would send you with a pill of a 30-day supply, 60-day supply, whatever, possible refill if you think you need it, whatever. This was, over 10 years ago. This was 2005, so 17 years ago. Okay, but they sent him home with that, and unfortunately the surgery was not successful. He would never throw a baseball or a football competitively ever again, okay? And as you can imagine, that was very damaging to his psyche. It was very disappointing to him. He had plans, like we talked to all the kids in school, everyone has plans for their future and what you want to be in life. Who knows, maybe he was going to make it to the major leagues one day. He was really that good. But now he realized that's not going to happen, okay? And, the surgery ended up not being successful, like I said, and he had to come up with Plan B. So Plan B was he was going to go to UMass Dartmouth, which he did, as a nursing major. He went there and he lived on campus while he was there. And while he was there, sometimes you can have some time to do a lot of thinking. And when he was doing some thinking, he started thinking about, when I took those little pills, they not only made the pain in my arm go away, they made me feel a little bit better inside, okay? And, they calmed me and they soothed me and things like that. And he, we talked to the kids, life is about making choices. Every day, the average human being makes over 100 choices a day. Most of those choices don't matter. What am I having for lunch today? Okay, what am I going to wear today? Things like that. But some of those choices, of course, could be life-changing choices that they made. And he made, let's just say, he made some wrong choices, okay, in life. And he started seeking those little pills out again and taking them. 3 a day, became 5 a day, became 10 a day, okay, a very expensive and damaging habit. Okay, he started taking those pills and he became addicted to them. And as you can imagine, it was very difficult for him to work a part-time job, keep up his college studies, and do what he was doing with the pills. So he ended up dropping out of school. Okay, coming back home, Mom and I figured out something wasn't right with him. Okay, eventually he came clean pretty much right away. You know, he didn't lie about it and told us what was going on, and off we sent him to treatment. And I'll be the first one to tell you, I thought we were going to be one and done. Okay, I thought, you know, we're going to send him to treatment. He's going to go there for 5 days, 7 days, 10 days, whatever it is. He's going to come back, you know, off of drugs, and we'll be done with this problem. Dodge that bullet. Okay, but unfortunately, that's not what happened, because what a lot of people sometimes don't understand is addiction is a disease of relapse. You know, they're going to want to get better, and they're going to try to get better, and sometimes they just can't. They can't do that. It's a disease of relapse. And he was in and out of treatment for the next 5 years, 12 times, until time number 13, what turned out to be not lucky, as my wife was talking about previously, and what happened. And you're going to see in the video we're about to show you in a sec, okay, you know, some of his high school days on the baseball field and the football field, and, you know, all the potential that he had that was taken away by some wrong choices that he made that led to almost his death. But like Laurie was saying, you know, God spared his life that night, whatever higher power you believe in. And part of his work, I think, is to go around and try to help everybody now that he can, you know, because his life was spared, and he's sort of doing God's work now. So we'll roll that video right now, and then he'll come out and you'll have a chance to meet him.
When you're addicted, you hurt the people that you love the most.
People don't realize that an addict is the kid next door.
It doesn't stop. It just keeps mushrooming and getting worse and worse until it just spirals completely out of control.
My life sucks now.
Cory James Palazzi.
So it was July 15th, 2013, and my cell phone rang. My name is Tom. I live with Cory in the sober house, and he said, you know, I'm sorry to tell you that he relapsed.
And the neurologist came in there
and
pretty much kind of said, well, we think now he might live, but he has extensive brain damage, and maybe his brain is only functioning at 20%.
Then they had to take him off the life support, and they weren't sure whether his brain was functioning enough that he would breathe on his own. So that was kind of scary within itself, not knowing whether once they turned that machine off, whether he would breathe on his own.
I remember when I woke up at the hospital and I had a tube down my throat and it hurt and I couldn't see anything except a white sheet.
He was always very athletic from day one. He loved baseballs and footballs and basketballs. He played Taunton Little League. He made Little League when he was 9, and he played 4 years in Little League, and he made the All-Stars all 4 years of Little League. He was a really good pitcher and shortstop, really good baseball player, very talented. He was the type of kid that any sport he played, he excelled at. He played on the freshman team at Taunton High, and then when he was a sophomore, he tried out for varsity, and he made the varsity team. He also played freshman football, and as a freshman, he also played varsity. He was the kicker on the varsity team. He was a quarterback on the freshman and JV team and a kicker on the varsity team. Cory was an excellent student all through school. He was always on the honor roll from first grade through his senior year in high school. His sophomore year at Taunton High, he was inducted into the National Honor Society, which was a proud moment for me as a mom. He was always a really good student. He was always a really good kid, never had any behavior issues with him, never had a detention, Never had any problems at all with him. He was always really good, never gave me a hard time. His junior year going into senior year, he hurt his shoulder and he had to have shoulder surgery on his right arm, which was devastating to him because it dashed all his dreams of moving forward and playing baseball in college or professionally. And that is kind of that's the underlying reason for where the addiction started.
I had to get surgery going into my senior year of high school. And then when I had the surgery, I realized that I liked the feeling of being on Percocets. So from there, it snowballed.
He went to UMass Dartmouth as a nursing major, and unfortunately he couldn't play any sport in college due to his shoulder injury. And that's where on campus he got a little anxious and depressed and upset of what had happened to him with his scholarships.
My dreams were to play baseball in college, and when that didn't happen, I felt depressed and anxious all the time. And I remembered that when I took the Percocets, how good they made me feel. So then I started to take Percocets every day in order to feel better.
He was going through a lot of emotional things, some depression, some anxiety, and my husband and I weren't really aware of that, only because he wasn't living at home.
I went from pills to heroin one day when I went to a friend's house, and he had heroin, and I tried it, and it was the best feeling I've ever felt.
We knew that he had a problem with prescription pills, with Percocet and Oxy, and we were trying to deal with that, but nothing prepared us for the moment that we found out he was using heroin. It was Christmas Eve, 2009. Dave pushed the door open and he was in there with a needle.
Doing heroin was me chasing that original high the whole time. Some people call it chasing the magic dragon.
If he was using every day and he was out at, his grandfather's house or out socially or working a job, nobody would ever know. Because it comes a point with heroin where they don't use to get high, they use to get by. Because if they don't use, they're gonna get sick.
To buy the drugs, I would pawn stuff from the house. I even pawned all my mother's jewelry and my grandfather's wedding ring. I used heroin to maintain my daily life.
We tried to reason with him. We tried so many different addiction centers. We just tried everything, and nothing worked. And it just gets to a point where you have to realize this is way bigger than we are, and we just needed some professional help. There's so many resources out there for parents, but we weren't aware of any of them. And Dave and I would sit in our kitchen, like, where do we turn? What do we do? I'd never dealt with addiction before in my life. I was ashamed or embarrassed to ask anybody about it. Mm-hmm. And I don't know, I just felt like it's not out there enough. There's not resources. There's a ton of them, but how do you find out where they are and what's available to you?
A lot of them, when you send them to a short-term thing, like 7 days, 10 days, whatever it is, they're not going to get it in 7 or 10 days. And I think insurance companies kind of need to maybe rethink that about how they deal with this issue.
He has balance issues. He does have a lot of falls. If he moves too quickly or he bends over, he will fall. So he can still walk around and maneuver around and do okay, but he can't see small print, he can't read, he can't use the computer, he can't use the cell phone. I have to help him in the morning when he gets stressed. He can't button or zip. I have to help him tie his shoes. He has problems holding utensils, brushing his teeth, those kind of normal everyday tasks.
He can't, cut his food, or we even have special utensils that we bought.
Yeah, he's
that have
getting
bigger
better with
handles.
those.
He's getting better with it.
those.
But it is a difficult time for him just to feed himself. There are resources out there that you can use, and addiction is something that shouldn't be kept in the closet, hidden. The more you talk about it and you get it out there, the better it is in the end.
Every day I want to help somebody else who might be going through the same things that I am.
As bad as it was, I'm lucky because I didn't hear the words, "We're sorry, he's gone." He lived.
Talk to your family or your friends about it so that you can get the proper help.
Don't think that this could never happen to you, because it can happen to you. And if it does happen to you, don't be ashamed or embarrassed, and just hold your head up high and just get the help that you need for not only your child or whoever the addict is in your family, but for yourself. And there is help out there, and to please go and try to get it, and don't be ashamed or embarrassed.
You might think that doing drugs are going to make you cool, and all your friends might be asking you to do that and everything, and maybe you even try it once or twice and nothing happens, and you might get away with it once, twice, 100 times. But in the end, something bad could certainly come of that. You should stay away from them to begin with, and they can ruin your life.
Don't do any drugs because you can end up like me.
I just wanted to touch base a little bit on the video. You'll see that Cory was walking around. When he comes out here, he will not be walking. He will be in a wheelchair. Cory did not have a traumatic brain injury. He had an anoxic brain injury, and those work a little bit differently. And sometimes effects of that brain injury don't happen right away. So his walking got worse, his eyesight got better. So we keep him in a wheelchair whenever we go out because he does fall a lot. He has a lot of falls and balance issues. So a lot of people see the video and then they go, he was walking around in it, and then he came out in a wheelchair. That's the reason why.
Yeah, like she said, he got better at a lot of things. His speech, you'll hear the way he talks now compared to the way he was talking when that video was made. When was it made? Around 2014, I think. Yeah, 2014. But he's better in every way except one, and that is his walking. How did he have all these disabilities anyways? When he overdosed that fateful night, they estimate that he probably went 2.5, 3 minutes without breathing before he was revived, and the paramedics had arrived, and during that time he wasn't breathing, and oxygen is not getting to his brain. Our body is made of hundreds of millions of cells. Your skin cells, you might get a cut on your skin, okay? What happens? The skin cells die, they're damaged, but they can repair themselves, okay? Grow back again and get a scab, and a few days later the scab falls off and your skin is as good as new. That's not how it works with brain cells. You only have so many brain cells, and when they die or get damaged, they're not being repaired or coming back. And so therefore he now has some of the disabilities that he has to live with for the rest of his life, all because of some choices that he made on the UMass Dartmouth campus in related to drugs. But he's here, and he wants to help people, and he's looking forward to meeting you. Are you guys ready to meet him? All right, Cory, come on out. Don't lay rubber here, just easy.
Hi, how is everybody doing tonight? That's great. First off, I would like to apologize because the video is a little bit outdated, because towards the end of the video, Dave actually says that I have a problem feeding myself, except that I bet that you can tell by looking at me that I no longer have that problem.
I do have to say, though, the first of last year, a year ago, his cousin asked him to be part of her wedding party. She got married this past June, and he wanted to look good in his tux, so he wanted to lose some weight. So he started keto, and is it 71?
Yeah.
He's lost 71 pounds. So it's pretty awesome, Cory. I'll tell you, going out without bread and pasta is a tough one, but you did it.
Another thing that's wrong in the video is I say heroin is the best feeling I've ever felt, except it isn't, which leads me to like the next thing that I said in the video that's wrong, which is my life sucks now, because like I no longer feel that way, because I get to go out and speak to groups like you and to kids.
When that video was made, it was less than a year from his overdose. And I think some of the emotions in it were really pretty raw. Like he tells people that all the time. He's like, you know, I don't think I have a bad life now, but at first he did. He was trying to live with the fact that he was now a disabled person. But, you know, I think he'll tell you that going out and sharing his story with kids has made him feel like he has a purpose and to get up every day.
I think that this happened to me for a reason, and like it gives me a reason to get up out of bed every day. The choices I made were the wrong ones, except nobody's perfect. So as long as you learn from your first mistake and don't make the same mistake over and over again, I think that you'll be okay. Don't feel bad for me, because I did this to myself, and I take full responsibility for my actions. And the ironic thing about this whole situation is that I was a nursing major in college, except I think that I'm helping more people now than I ever could as like a nurse. If there are a few things that I would really like all of you to leave here with tonight, it's to be a leader, not a follower. And if you're only going to remember one thing tonight, remember this. Don't let one thing define you, because growing up, I always just defined myself as an athlete. And then once I lost that, I had no idea who I was anymore.
When we talk to the kids, we talk a lot about that. You know, we tell the kids, you're not just an athlete, you're not just an artist, you're not just a musician or a dancer or whatever it is that you like to do. Cory defined himself with one word, athlete. Everything in his life revolved around athletics. And when he couldn't be part of a team anymore, he didn't know how to live his life. He didn't know what to do. You know, I told him, I'm like, you could have gone to the Y and shot some hoops. You could have gone to the gym. There were other things that he could have done, a pickup basketball game on campus or whatever. There were things that he could have done, but he was so focused on being part of a team and that whole camaraderie that comes with it, that he just couldn't even picture himself doing anything else in his life, and that's very dangerous. So we always tell the kids, you're more than one thing. There's so many parts of you, not just one. I want to go back to why Cory used. When he was a junior at Taunton High School, he had a pro scout from the Major League Baseball team, the Seattle Mariners, come to scout him. There were scholarship offers to play baseball in college, and all that went away when his arm didn't bounce back the way that he wanted it to. He was 17 years old on cloud nine with pro scouts and college coaches and everything like that in his life, and then they dropped him like a hot potato, and he had a really hard time dealing with that. So that's why when he was on campus and feeling a little bit upset about everything he had lost, he remembered that when he took the opiate, it also took the mental pain, not just the physical pain, away. And when we talk to kids, we like to talk to them a lot about one drink or one pill is not going to solve your problem. They're going to become the biggest problem you ever have. So if you're feeling anxious or depressed and you feel like you might need a little help, seek out professional help. Don't try to self-medicate yourself, because it's very dangerous, and Cory will tell you it brought him down a road that he never wanted to go, because he never thought that this would happen to him. Part of our reason for going out and speaking also is to try to remove the stigma of the disease and make people understand that addiction truly is a disease, and it's not all about partying and getting high and having a good time. And I want to tell you a story about a family that I met. I had to go to Chicago and with a bunch of other family advocates that do work in the addiction field because of something that has happened to them in their family. And I met a mom. Her son was a senior. They live in Georgia. He was a senior in high school. He ended up graduating that year, class valedictorian. He was class president. He was really a smart kid with such a bright future ahead of him. But he was nervous at the end of senior year. He was worried about graduation and prom and how things in his life were going to change with going off to college. And he was having a hard time sleeping. His dad had had surgery and had a prescription of Vicodin. There were 120 pills in that bottle. He put that bottle in his medicine cabinet, but didn't take any. I'm going to save these for a rainy day. I might get a toothache or a backache someday, and I'll have them. And so their son Davis went into the medicine cabinet one night because he couldn't sleep, picked up the bottle of Vicodin and thought, I wonder if I take one of these, if this will help me sleep. Well, he did, and he slept like a baby. So he started to take them every night. His parents were not aware that he was taking them. He went off to college. By this time, he was addicted to opiates, went to heroin. In 6 months into his new college life, the police were at his parents' door to inform them that they had found him dead in his car. He had died of a heroin overdose. Now, here's a kid who wasn't taking these pills because he was partying and wanted to get high and have a good time. He was taking these pills innocently because they were helping him sleep. So please don't ever take a pill out of a medicine cabinet, and please do not store any medication in your medicine cabinet that they can get into the wrong hands. If you have a prescription that you want to keep it locked up safely somewhere, or if you have a prescription that you want to get rid of, every police department has receptacle bins where you can bring unwanted medication. And it doesn't have to just be an opiate. If you have, they changed your high blood pressure medication, or they changed your diabetes medication, and you still have some of these pills left, you can bring them to any police department and put them in the bin, and they will take care of it. It is so dangerous to keep pills in your house. And please don't throw them in the trash, because dogs or cats can get at them and it will kill them, and it's not good for the environment for you to flush them. So please bring them to one of these receptacles. And I always try to talk to people about alternate pain management. I mean, Cory had this surgery. It was over 10 years ago. Nobody was talking about addiction. Nobody even realized that these pills were addicting because Purdue Pharma promoted them, saying that they had done studies and they were non-addictive. So doctors were prescribing them like candy, and people were taking them. Ask your doctor those important questions. What is this you're prescribing me? Is it addicting? Is there ultimate pain management? Maybe some ice and some Motrin. So it's your body you're putting these pills into. So ask those important questions. And there's an interesting statistic that I think the US is 5% of the world population. And yet we consume 80%, yes, 80% is right, of the pain meds in the world. And the rest of the world consumes the other 20%. So that just goes to show you, I think, that as a society, we want instant gratification. We're kind of babies. And these other countries, they use different, alternative pain management, and they don't have the problem that we do. So, I mean, the numbers are just absolutely huge. How many pills are out there? I think that when Governor Baker was in office, he did a really good job of limiting that, and it didn't stop people from being able to get a prescription. It was just people would not go home with this huge prescription and put it in their medicine cabinet and never take it for someone else to take. So over 175 people die every day in this country, and I said it before and I want to say it again. Talk to someone if you have any problems. If you're younger and you're a child, talk to a trustworthy adult in your life so that you can get the help that you need. And one thing that I like to always say to adults is the 3 most dangerous words you can think or say are "not my kid." If you asked me if my son would have ever been a heroin addict, I would have said never in a million years. We've had the drug talk. He told me, "Mama, I'll never use drugs because I'm an athlete. I would never put anything like that in my body." He went through the DARE program when he was at school. He was a nursing major in college. He knew the dangers of drugs. It didn't matter. When he had surgery, he told me the very first Percocet that he was given for pain, he lit up like a Christmas tree. It was like an automatic addiction for him. And some of us don't know if we're wired that way, if we're going to have a problem with them. Some people take them and they're fine and they can stop. Some people take them and say, "Oh, I didn't like that. It made me sick." But there's some people like Cory that unfortunately he was just predisposed to addiction, and his brain absolutely, positively loved it. As we said earlier, we've done over 200 presentations at schools and different community events across Massachusetts, and we're really proud of what we've done. We've actually gone to Washington, D.C. is the furthest that we spoke. I keep telling everybody I'm waiting for Honolulu, Hawaii to call and say, "Hey, we want you to come over," but that hasn't happened yet, but we're still waiting. Any donations that we receive through Cory's Cause go back to the community. We've given over $40,000 back to communities in the state of Massachusetts in the form of scholarships to high school and college kids across the state. So we have a website, it's called coryscause.com. If you go to our website, if you have a loved one that would like to apply for a scholarship, we please urge you to do that. Check out our website, check out our Facebook page. And we just want to thank everyone for welcoming us here and for allowing us to share Cory's story. Thank you. Does anybody have any questions for us? Oh, come on.
No questions for Cory or anything? All right, well, we might have
Comments, complaints?
We might have a couple of questions for you. We brought these Cory's Cause T-shirts here, so we'll ask 1 or 2 questions here now. All right, question number 1. What was the date of his almost fatal overdose? All right, way back there.
July 15th or 13th.
15th is right.
Yeah.
Of what year?
2000. Oh, wait, is that
2013. July 15, 2013. Close enough. We'll give you one when we get back there. One more. What was the Major League Baseball team that was scouting him? The Major League Baseball team that was scouting him. Pick one. Go ahead.
It was Seattle Mariners and probably Brian Nichols.
I don't even remember the guy's name, but it was the
Yes.
Seattle Mariners, yes. All right, you got the other one. We also brought in some Cory's Cause bracelets. We can be more than happy to pass them out to you if you would like one for you or someone else. But again, you were a great audience. Thank you. It's too bad there wasn't more people here, but thank you for attending and allowing us to share our story. Thank you.